This review is written by Healthy Gypsy Tea. And Healthy Gypsy Tea has written a 1-dot review from TripAdvisor of the Franklin Institute. So here it is. The subject is not really fun for anyone over 11 years old. And I just noticed this, Trey, and I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but next to the date, like that they wrote this review, there's a dot, and then next to that, it says family. I've never seen that before, but just wanted to point it out. Have you seen that before?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know. Well, they have said that they're a family, I guess. Okay, here we go. While visiting Philadelphia with my 2 teenage sons, we couldn't decide how to spend our day because of all the great choices of stuff to do. After reading dozens of reviews on TripAdvisor, we decided on the Franklin Institute. It's not very often I completely disagree with the reviews here, but I am shocked by how many good reviews there are. I was torn between giving this place a 1 star or 2 because it's probably worth 2 stars if you have young children under 12, are prepared to spend a fair amount of money, and have never been to a great kids science museum like the Exploratorium in San Francisco. But if any of those things don't apply to you, I would give this place a miss. The idea of this place is good, but it seemed to fall short at every exhibit. We visited on a Saturday in June, and it wasn't really that crowded. We were 2 adults, 2 teens, and 1 senior. When we arrived, we decided to buy entrance to just the Institute itself and the 3D movie on penguins for an extra $4 each, because it seemed like there was a lot to do just at the main institute without adding a special exhibition for double the price. We began on the 3rd floor at the Sports Challenge. My boys were excited to try surfing. The exhibit turned out to be ridiculously boring, certainly for older kids, but even the younger ones were not enjoying the very small, slow, and awkward moving surfboard that lasted a few seconds. So disappointing. There was also a chance to kick a soccer ball and throw a broken baseball. The exhibits are old, tired, and boring. My kids then wanted to try the sky bicycle, which sounded like fun, but when we got to it, we found out that there was an extra charge to go on it. This was the case that we found on every section of the Institute, that whenever there was something slightly interesting to try, there was always an extra charge. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, babe.
Good.
I got lost in the second page. Fudge. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to read the sentence again. This was the case that we found on every section of the Institute, that whenever there was something slightly interesting to try, there was always an extra fee. The sky bicycle, flight simulator, adventure flight, etc., all cost an extra $5 each to participate in. We were wondering what was actually covered in the admission fee. We had an awful, but typical for this type of place, lunch at the Franklin Food Works. The only vegetarian option was a tired piece of cheese pizza, nothing to eat for vegans or those trying to eat a healthy meal. After our sad lunch, we hurried to level 2 for our 3D movie to find the theater completely empty except for the 5 of us. And once the movie began, I realized why. It was the old Discovery Channel show on penguins, narrated by David. Wow. It was the old Discovery Channel show on penguins, narrated by David Attenborough. What a waste of time. When we got out of the movie, we went up to the planetarium to see the show. When we got out of the movie, we went up to the planetarium to see the show, only to find out that at 3:45, when we arrived, there were no more shows for the day. The Institute closed at 5. So disappointing. Then we went up to the observation deck on the 4th floor, only to find out it was already closed for the day. Why? And this is why I'm giving this place a single star review. There was no schedule of any kind given out when we arrived to let us know when the planetarium shows played or ended for the day. And the observation deck is not even listed on the map. We just happen to see it on the elevator buttons. What terrible visitor service. And we weren't sure why they closed at 5 when it seemed everything worth seeing closed by 4:15. There was a potentially cute exhibit in the train factory on the 1st floor. It was a little mystery with clues where you try to find out who was responsible for a train wreck. The idea was really cute, but was so confusing and executed so poorly, most kids passed it by, and adults were trying hard to figure it out and wondering why there wasn't any kind of intro to it leading into the exhibit. Disappointing again. I felt so bad dragging my kids here for the day that I paid $10 for them to go for a spin in the flight simulator, and they both enjoyed it. If I had endless funds, I would have let them go on a few times. I really wanted to like this place. It just fell short at every turn.
Wow. Wait.
Yeah.
What was the reviewer's name again?
Healthy Gypsy Tea.
Right. Healthy Gypsy Tea. Well, now I understand.
Interesting. Yes, we understand the healthy. Yeah.
Okay. The first thing that occurred to me here in the title.
Yes.
Only good for people under 11.
Yes.
And then like the first sentence is like, I was taking my teenagers. Doesn't everyone in the world know that teenagers are impossible? And why would you ever assume that a good activity for teenagers is any sort of museum? Maybe I'm biased, but like, don't take teenagers to like a science museum. I just totally already know that's going to be a nightmare. They're not going to be interested in a kid's museum. They're teenagers.
Right. Yeah. Admittedly, I was a kid when I went.
Well, yeah, we had a place called Discovery Zone, and I would go there, and it was all of these same things you're talking about. But that's not cool when you're like 14 and you like girls and you're on TikTok.
Yeah, and all that. I mean, I was wondering, because remember at one point in the beginning, she was saying how she paid regular admission and then the other admission was double the cost. I wondered, if you paid for the other admission, do you think all this stuff was included in that? Is it a la carte if you just do this general admission and then, you know, which in a way, I can see why they would do it that way, because you would figure if it's double the cost, I mean, maybe $5 or whatever is a lot, but if it's double the cost, I don't think, they said they had a senior with them. I don't know that the senior is going to do the flight simulator, and it doesn't sound like the mom's going to do it either. So why pay double the price per ticket when you can just pay a la carte for just the teenage boys? So I wondered if this sort of nickel and diming that they were doing was because they were wearing the yellow wristbands and the people that were wearing the purple wristbands got to just do carte blanche. I don't know. I don't know.
The whole ticketing situation is a question for me.
Yeah.
I pulled up the website and it does only list general admission tickets, which include museum admission and then the Fells Planetarium. So, you know, Healthy Gypsy Tea does mention that there was no like information handed out. So even looking at this, like, it doesn't say that there are going to be individually priced experiences. So that is a question for me, that there is some value here to me that I need to really check in about that.
Yeah. And I guess you wouldn't really know that if there was no documentation. You wouldn't know that until you're past the ticketing process, I guess.
Yeah, you would hope the box office person would be telling you that.
Right. So that's something, right? So is the box office person to blame in this scenario? Like, but I guess they wouldn't know what they were in for, but it seems like they could have let them know this is what's included with general and this is what's included if you go the other way. I don't know.
It is interesting to me that, like, it would definitely be disappointing to me that every single cool thing was like an additional charge. Like, then it is sort of like, why can't you just include this? Like, then you really would have the experience of being nickeled and dimed. So if your hypothesis that they got a cheaper ticket that wasn't all inclusive, like, then, you know, I wonder if they bought the tickets online and didn't speak to a person who would explain that, or...
That's true. They didn't really blame the ticketing person or mention them. It sounds like they were almost blaming themselves for trusting the other reviewers and going in a little bit blind, because it does sound like they made this decision thinking that there would be plenty to do with just the regular admission, which I understand as a visitor of a lot of museums. I go to museums a lot. And if I'm in a different city, like sometimes they'll have pay extra and see this exhibit, but the museum is so large.
Correct.
And you're like, I'm just here one day and I really want to take it all in. So I'm not going to pay for the extra thing. So I think that that's what Healthy Gypsy Tea was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the spelling and grammar like?
Excellent. We did abuse the all caps a little.
Really?
A little bit. We abused the all caps, but not like crazy. We used it a lot. It looks excellent though. Really, really nicely done. Healthy Gypsy Tea on the grammar for sure. I don't think she had any copy. I mean, I stumble because sometimes I stumble, but I don't think I stumbled on any of the sentences.
No, I don't think so.
So I think it was well written, but do we think this is a normal experience? And do we think that Healthy Gypsy Tea was right to kind of throw shade at the other reviewers that had positive experiences here? Because I feel like that's what she did.
I'm curious, given Healthy Gypsy Tea's title, if Healthy Gypsy Tea came with non-teenagers, what the experience would have been. Would you have had a more pleasurable experience with the general admission if you had young minds versus teenagers?
Well, I think that's what they're saying.
Right. Like, I wonder if the 5 stars are not for people that had teenagers.
Maybe. And maybe that's why they felt the need to really hone in on that. I mean, if I was going to say that Healthy Gypsy Tea had a hypothesis or a thesis that they were presenting, I would say that's the lane they chose.
It also made me curious, how is a baseball broken?
I know. Like, I was thinking about that too.
The thread breaks or something?
The thread? I don't know. Like, there must be some sort of science, physics thing with that, I assume.
Yeah, that was perplexing to me.
Oh, the food expectations. Let's touch on that. I mean, I know we've been touching on the Healthy Gypsy Tea thing, but what do we think we can expect at a museum cafeteria?
Well, I think even Healthy Gypsy Tea says, like, per expected of this sort of a place.
Right. I mean,
but
then why do we feel the need to really like include that? Just because we want to be thorough for other people and be like, bring your own food?
I did think it was maybe one of the most valuable aspects of this review was mentioning that there is not a vegan friendly food.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I wonder how many vegans are going to the Franklin Institute. Interesting statistic.
But I do think it is like, this is for children. And I do think that children cafeteria situations are always not gourmet food, which Healthy Gypsy Tea points out.
And they also like want to turn it around. So I feel like it's always the type of food that you can just like throw under those heaters or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's like chicken fingers and like
chicken fingers and French fries.
Mustard.
Yeah, and pizza, you know.
I mean, do you think that this like has any impact on you? Like, would this be a deal breaker for you?
I think it's a very contingent review, right? I think it's if I decide I'm going to go to this museum with teenagers and not children, like there's just a lot of I think there's like a lot of boxes that need to be ticked for this to be your experience. But where I do feel like taking note, and thank you, Healthy Gypsy Tea, for letting me know, I am curious about the a la carte thing. And are they going to be trying to upcharge me at every turn to try to get me to just, you know, separate me from my money? Is that what I'm getting into? Because if that's the case, then, you know, I would want to know. I'd want to ask more about the ticketing. So I think that that was useful to me. But other than that, I think like we've both been saying, it sounds like this was just the wrong audience. And I don't think that most people looking to come here with children would be like, nah, not going to come because of this.
And then something that also stuck out to me in this review is the conversation about parts closing prior to the actual closing of the building. And that is something that does pop up very frequently in reviews. And that
was in the Ross review at the dressing rooms.
Oh my gosh, right. Remember? That's right. But that is perplexing to me. I recognize that like if a showing or something, like you're not going to do a showing, like you're going to make sure that the last showing ends prior to the building ending or closing.
Right.
So like, but 3:45 and they close at 5, maybe that sort of makes sense. Like, you know, but that's
what I was thinking. Well, I was thinking though, I wondered the same thing because I was like, yes, that's annoying. And you should have known that going in, or they should have told you. But if you figure it's like an hour program,
right,
and they close at 5, I think a 3:45 show probably starts closer to 4. And then if it's an hour long, I think it made sense to me. I think that it was clearly very annoying to Healthy Gypsy Tea, but I think it does stand to reason that you'd have to, like, if a movie theater closes at midnight, they're not going to start a movie after 10.
Correct.
You know,
it makes me think of like zoos when they have like live events. It always says like the last showing is this, like it's very communicated.
Right. Exactly.
It really feels to me that Healthy Gypsy Tea did a lot of review research, but did not do a lot of research on the actual museum itself, because I wonder if there was any literature that gives you a ballpark of what the approximate age is for visitors.
Sure.
And also like not really knowing about the mystery train thing. And like, it just seemed they went in sort of blind, besides reading a bunch of reviews where people were happy. But, you know, reviews are so subjective that it's sort of like,
I know. Well, we know.
We totally know.
We definitely know. I mean, I hear you. I get it though. I obviously I live in reviews. Our show is about reviews. I'm reading the reviews all the time. And I heavily depend on those because I feel like everybody's going to put their best foot forward on their website. You know, the people that are going to really tell you what's going on are going to be the people in the reviews. So if they, you know, if Healthy Gypsy Tea read a bunch of reviews and none of them mentioned any problem with getting the general admission, you know, and that like there was a lot to see, then I can understand why they would be a little bit disappointed, I guess. But they could have done the research, or I don't know. But they did say somewhere in here, right, that something like wasn't in the brochure or wasn't in the, they did give them something.
Yeah, like
I don't remember these things.
There was reference to like,
oh, it said no. So there's no schedule given out of any kind when we arrived. So let's see. Anything else that we need to consider for Healthy Gypsy Tea?
I don't think so. I think I can crown this.
All right, let's crown her.
The queens are tabulating.
You ready?
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's do it.
Total score
Oh, interesting. We reversed on this one. So I'm holding up 2 crowns. Trey is holding up 3.5 crowns. Trey, tell us why you're holding up 3.5 for Healthy Gypsy Tea.
Based on Healthy Gypsy Tea's review, I think there is a large impact. I imagine that this is maybe not the most common experience, which Healthy Gypsy Tea points out themselves. But what the impact of the review for me as a reader is, I'm not going to bring teenagers here. I need to get clarity on what the cost to participate is.
Yeah.
Because you don't want children to feel like they're not allowed to get something because it's a pay per exhibit situation.
Right.
And
yes.
I think it's valuable to know, like, plan accordingly, because like things will have final showings or final participation before the end of the business day, and also plan like food appropriately. So for that reason, there is an impact for me, even though I don't know that I would have been in these shoes to begin with. I would never think to bring teenagers to a science museum, but
sure.
I do think that it's more than middle of the road. That's why I did 3.5, because the impact is not a deal breaker. I would go, but I would be armed with wanting more information. Why did you do 2 crowns?
I did 2 crowns because I just felt like in order to have the same experience as Healthy Gypsy Tea, I would need to be vegan with teenagers. I think if I weren't those things, I probably would have a very different experience. Also, obviously, there's like a little bit of attachment for me for the Franklin Institute because I love it. And I know how much I loved it when I was a kid. And I have admittedly not been there in a while. But I do think it's likely still fun for these kids. And for me, while I appreciated Healthy Gypsy Tea sharing her experience, sharing the knowledge about the a la carte situation, sharing the knowledge about apparently the jankiness of, or the weird, is janky a bad word? Apparently, telling me about the surf experience and different experiences, I feel like I did get to know what some of the programming was going to be. So there was information there. So that's mostly where my 2 crowns came from, is there was information there. I learned a thing or two, but I don't know that this would be something that would impact the regular attendee of the Franklin Institute. So that's that.
I agree.
Maybe